G'day my friends, Marty we're here from Marty's Garden, live on YouTube. Thanks for coming to watch this show today. Yep, it's a pretty average day here where I live on the mid-north coast, and actually it's good for worms because it's been raining a lot. But what today's video is about, so you've come to watch the rerun or you watch the live show, it's worm farming for beginners. Now, even if you're an intermediate or someone that's been doing worm farming like myself for a bit over a decade, well, no, I was going to say a decade, probably 13 years or something now. So we're going for quite a while. Going right back to the beginning is a really good thing. I remember a wise friend of mine said to me one day, one of my mentors, he said to me, Marty, he goes, with everything you do, you go back to the beginning, back to the start, and work your way through again. And then you learn a lot as you progress and go through. And that way, you learn extra little things, and then you teach what you learn to others, and you learn even more again. You become a master at what you do. And I've always followed those rules and principles. So today we're going back right to the beginning for beginner worm farmers to help them get started. And we're going to have a Q&A sort of near the end. I've got my trusty list here at the side here. And what I want to mention is first, the most important thing to do is to just start, right? Just to start worm farming in 2022. And one of the biggest reasons to do it is it's just a great way to save money and to be more sustainable into the future. And if that sounds like you, hang on, watch the show because I'll help you save some money. Learn how to make some worm castings at home, a free fertilizer that plants love with no smell, using your valuable waste at home. Now, before we get into it too much further, I just want to thank everyone that purchased my ebook, Starting a Worm Farm, A Beginner's Guide. You guys are awesome. You can find that over in the link down below. It's at my Buy Me a Coffee website, and it's really cheap. Great thing to get you started if you want to learn how to progress through. But this video, or this live show, however you're watching it, will really help you a lot. Start from the beginning and remove a lot of the fluff that you see online that's just spoken over and over and over again. There's a lot of stuff that's taught online, believe me, that is incorrect. Anyway, let's bring a few crew in because it is a live show, and I like to say g'day to everyone that is coming in to this show. So, why start worm farming in 22? Well, I pretty much just told you why. It is really rewarding in so many ways. Here we go. Smokescreen TV. Cheers, Marty. I'll share your stream out, bro. I changed my name, by the way. Cannabis Culture Australia was a hard name to maintain. Yeah, I can imagine. As you know, we got to grow and evolve with our channels. Yes, we do. And hey, thanks for sharing that out. I really appreciate that. And Garden Kings. Scotty, you've changed your name too there, mate. The Garden Kings. Hello, Marty. Hope you had a great week. And yeah, awesome to see you here. How's the missus there, mate? She doing well? I know she's always attached to your side. DV Skiller. Good morning, Marty and friends. Good morning, DV Skiller. And Ace Tiger. Haven't seen you for a while, buddy. How you doing, mate? Hope your worms are doing well. Hi there. Sorry I haven't been here for a while. Just been busy with school. All good, mate. You know, I'm busy too sometimes, and I can't be here. Totally understand. But today we're talking this live show. We're watching the rerun, Beginner Worm Farming, and I've been sitting down for an hour writing a list and getting some images ready and things. Now, please forgive me if everything does not run smoothly with the imagery on here. I'm doing my best I can to learn this software that I'm using to run live shows. If you can see behind, I've got the sign up. Don't panic. It's organic. Yep. We had the background before where you sort of see off into the kitchen and stuff like that, and then it was just a white plain background, and just trying to sort of like bring it in the color of branding. And you know, look, I like that. Don't panic, it's organic. I think it's pretty cool and really relates to worm farming, right? So let's move into the next part. I've got my list here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. So recycling your waste and turning it into something valuable. So we're talking about why start worm farming, right? Because you can, as I mentioned, you save a lot of money, and everyone's kicking cooking and got different things around the garden that can be recycled. Nearly everything, or virtually everything that's organic, can be fed into a worm farm, eaten by compost worms, and turn into worm castings, which becomes a valuable amendment, fertilizer, and biology for plants in the ground, in pot plants. You can make worm teas out of it with a liquid. It's got no smell when it's done correctly. And it basically costs you nothing, just a little bit to set up and a little bit of a small learning curve at the beginning to get going. And then you find as you do it more and more, it just becomes more rewarding. And it's quite simple then to scale up if you want to make your garden even bigger and make even more valuable worm castings for your garden, right? So I'm going to keep looking into my list, and I've got here, it's simple once you learn how, and that's very true. So once you learn how and you just do it over and over a few more times, everything you're learning, you always come across problems and little hiccups and things like that. But, you've always got me here to help and guide you in some ways. And also, as we learn, we progress, and we just make mistakes in life, and then we learn and we fix it and we get better at it, right? So it's just something to happens to all of us. If everyone had a worm farm, right, this is pretty cool. If everyone had a worm farm, the amount of waste going into landfills would significantly drop. Man, it would drop amazingly, because, like most of our waste here is sort of green waste that's going out, and just basically compost worms will chew it up, turn it into something good, and you can put it back onto the land. Even if you're not gardening, you can put it back over your grass or just under your trees and things like that, and you're replenishing the soil biology, giving that plant the nutrition it needs, and it's not going out into wasteland and producing toxic stuff and getting mixed up in all types of things that I don't really want to mention. But we can, we're playing a role, right, in, managing our own waste, and we feel good about that when you actually start doing it. You see how much you can actually cut down, right? So worm farming is one way to do that, especially applied with a good composting program. Right, so let's move into the imagery here. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to drop this down, right, and I'm going to do a couple of things here just to try and get this working properly. I'm going to drop this down, put this into a classic 4, and then we're going to pull up some screen stuff here for the next part of this show. So hopefully this is all coming through nice and clean. I just want to make sure that, it could be a little bit busy behind us, the screen, but, we're getting there, and it's working. Right, so to the left of me, or you might be seeing it to the right, depends, everything's opposite on my screen. There is a worm farm, right? And it's a 3-tiered worm farm. And these are the most common worm farms that we have. And it's the one that I recommend for beginners to use right at the start, because they're a pretty good worm farm, and less things can go wrong with them, and you get better results quite quickly. So that's why I put these type of worm farms in my courses, such as in my ebook, Starting a Worm Farm, a Beginner's Guide, which we have the link down below if you want to learn the full process and get up and running quite quickly. There's also the members area here where you can watch all the videos, the join button down below these videos, and you can get in and access, lots of videos in there. And that's another way you can do it. Other than that, just keep watching this show and keep on learning. So what is a worm farm? It's basically any type of box that houses compost worms. They all come in different shapes and sizes, right? And so most of them, as I said before, they're 3-tiered, and that the reason they work like their 3-tiered system is because we need to actually have a migration system and a feeding system. So generally we start off with just one tier here, and then the water collecting down below for our liquid nutrient that runs out. And I do teach more about that in the videos and the ebook and stuff. But basically we want this one tier here, and this has our bedding in it and our food at the top and a cover, and it sits in there. And we throw our compost in it as a bedding, or a mushroom compost, or a cocoa peat. Avoid the cheap ones. And then we create the bedding, we release our worms, have a little worm blanket here, and feed these guys our kitchen scraps. got to chop up those kitchen scraps really small as best as you can. We wait until they nearly consume it all, and then we feed a bit more. One of the biggest problems with worm farming, and this is really like the best tip I can give you, don't overfeed your worms. If you overfeed them, it can get funky, can become sour, it can attract flies and different pests and things. So we want to wait until the food's nearly finished. And as our worm populations grow, because they expand really quickly, they'll consume more food. And then what we can do is we can leave this, imagine this is our first level, we grab another tier, put it on top, they all move from the bottom up to the top here, and then and you feed again, right? And just wait until this bottom one, all that sort of material is fully consumed into a worm casting. They've all moved up into this area where the food is, chasing the food, and we pull this one out. And then we just go again. We just lap over and lap over and lap over and just turn it over and over and collecting our castings. And as we're watering it down, keeping our worms nice and moist, because they need to keep moist, make sure you use a rainwater or a dechlorinated water. And if it's summertime, you can do it more often, and just run the water through and come out of the tap, and you've got a great liquid fertilizer that you can use. And if you don't let it sit too long, it won't become stagnant. You just want to use it quickly, or pour it back into your worm farm if you're not using it. So yeah, this is a worm farm, and I'm teaching you guys for beginner worm farming. So hopefully you're enjoying the show so far. And as I said, we're going to have a Q&A sort of more to the end. I thank everyone for coming to watch the show. And yeah, g'day, Jamin. How you going, mate? Good to see you here. James Coates, good morning, Marty, and fellow worm wranglers. G'day, mate. Vermicompost, learn by doing. Another channel here on YouTube where you can go and watch worm farming stories and progressions and things like that, and cool tips and tricks. Hello, Marty, everyone. I've definitely been more aware of my waste since starting to farm worms. Yeah, and I've been over and checked out the channel there. It's pretty fun, and you're getting a few views, which is absolutely just wonderful. Right, I'm going to go back to the list here, and we'll keep moving on. Right, so I talked about they come in all different shapes and sizes, worm farms. And basically, you can have everything. You can have like a DIY worm farm. You can have you can make them out of foam boxes and different things. If you really don't have a lot of money and you've got some worms, that could be a way to go. The only thing is that you've got more reasons for them, more area for them to escape generally. And at the beginning, you don't want to be losing too many worms until you've got quite a lot of them. You don't mind if a few escape here and there. And it's hard to make these migration boxes and collect the castings and things like that. But it's still possible to do it. I just recommend that you look at a worm farm like a 3-tiered one at the very beginning. Don't worry about brands. Just look something with a good, strong legs, well made, plenty of ventilation, and there's lots of holes in the bottom of sort of each tray so things can flow up and through. And generally you don't go more than sort of 3 tiers high. It's going a bit overkill. They get quite heavy. So yeah, just be aware of that. 3 tiers is enough. So you've got 2 tiers for your worms that you keep swapping over. And your bottom tier is where you collect the water that's coming through, your liquid nutrient. All right, so let's keep going with the list here. We've got 23 people watching. What? My software's doing funny stuff again. 23 people watching, 14 thumbs up. Thanks, guys, for coming to watch the show. Truly appreciate you. And we'll have a Q&A sort of more towards the end. I'm going to cover some really cool stuff here in this video. And it's the first live show I've done for beginner worm farmers like this. And generally we're doing more sort of advanced stuff. But these guys here that come and watch this show regularly have been worm farming for quite a while. And I'm sure they'll have some great questions for me and even some really good input. So stay tuned to the show, guys, even if you're just watching the rerun or you're here for the live. Going to be some good stuff rolling out. Garden Kings. I feel like I'm recycling food one week, but the next I'm finding the worm bin full and I have too many scraps left. What should I do with these? Okay, so what we're going to do is we have a Q&A sort of more towards the end there, but I'll answer this one because it's a good question, and then I'll roll through, and as we move through my list here, we'll get to these questions. All right, so The thing is that if you're using a lot, if you eat a lot of greens, and you've got a bigger family, you may need a composting system, and then you compost a lot of the material, and then you put that back in your worm farms and expand your worm farm systems out. Something that I sort of teach, putting them into underground worm farms as well, and getting bigger worm farms with more surface area. So it's not actually, I don't think a small single-tiered worm farm is going to solve all your waste problems. It just is a part of the system that helps, right? So if you've got a tumbler or a small compost bin where you can turn it over, and then you're better off putting that material when that's done back into the worm farms. I'll eat all that and turn it into something even better, like a super duper compost, really, even an even better worm tea, and you get a free bedding as well. So that's another option to do. And another one is to look at like a bigger flow through system, but we'll talk about that as sort of as we go through. I think that will be a good idea. All right, so I just got to make sure I've got this right here. We don't miss anything. Okay, next page. When is the time to start worm farming? I believe now, into 2022, if you're not doing it already, it is super rewarding, and you can learn slowly how to recycle your waste. And the more people are doing it, the better the world benefits, and you'll benefit from it long term. Over time, you'll see how I've benefited on my channel and my videos and things, how well my garden performs, and it's all powered by compost and worms. It's just absolutely brilliant. Now, I've got a show coming out tomorrow with a big surprise for you guys to do with this. So stay tuned for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Sydney, Australia time. I've got a really great surprise for you guys, but I'm not going to release it today. You're going to have to watch out for that video. So what we want to do is band together more of us do it, more of a sustainable lifestyle we can create, and we can actually simplify our lives a bit more as well. And a lot of people are looking at that, of simplifying their life just a little bit more, and like composting and worm farming and gardening and growing food can really do that. It not only provides us with a free nutrient, but it also helps us with food security and produce a higher end, better quality product that plants love. And when you're feeding your plants the juice and the worm castings and compost, your plants are just so much healthier than general. The stuff that you buy in the shops these days is absolutely terrible. And not only are you using everything that you're buying from the shop and then recycling it and turning it into, revaluing it into something else, your plants are enjoying it. When your plants are more healthy, less chance of pests and disease, guys. So it's a really a win-win situation. And when you're using the worm cast, you can just put it in some water and fertilize your indoor plants to make a liquid tea, and there's no smell whatsoever. So we're steering away from chemically synthesized pellets and things like that, and moving more into a sustainable future. So more people, start worm farming into 2022 if you haven't already. Right, so next one I've got, choose the right worm farm model for you. Right, so as I said, the 3-tier is my choice. That's the one that I really like. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and pull up another one. I've got them here. Let's have a look. Right. So what I'll do is I'll pull these across, and then I'm going to delete them so I can watch what I'm doing. It's a bit tricky doing this stuff. I'm going to move this up here. And this is an underground worm farm, right? So if you've got a worm farm set up already, what I recommend you do is you start with your 3 little tiered worm farm. Get used to using that. Have a place where you can store worms. You can keep them successfully. You're learning how to farm worms. And if you're running out of sort of space, or you've got more worms than you need, or more compost that you want to get rid of, start, they call it here, a worm tunnel or a permaculture worm farm. Now, I've got a video on my channel called Permaculture Worm Farming. Just go in on the channel and type it in, and you'll find it there, and it's got a full breakdown on this. This one that just shows a large pot with lots of sort of holes on the side, put a bit of bedding in there, which is generally the soil around the outside, compost, and then, a worm blanket with your food underneath and some type of lid. Now, you've got to have a bit of ventilation coming in here from the top, and if it's dry, you've got to come in water. But what we're doing is we're essentially taking, so when our worm farms get full, they stop producing, stop breeding and laying cocoons and things. So then we've got these extra ones. So we can put them into our compost tumbler, the extra worms, or we can build an underground worm farm and plant and put all compost around the outside, wood mulch and things like that. And they'll move in and out of this. You can also place them into a big garden bed, above ground garden bed, and they'll go through and start fertilizing the system. But we want to have that single tiered worm farm, the 3-tiered ones, as our main place for housing our worms and keeping our stock and getting used to having them. And then generally this would be our second worm farm that we have if we've got a garden to put it into. So cheers to you. Everyone start worm farming into 22. Had that rhymed, eh? Cool. Righto. Just going to have a quick drink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this picture because we don't need to go back to this and see what we can find here behind my images. Right, let's pull this one up. This one is a flow through worm farm. Hopefully you can see that nice and clear there, guys. I'll just make myself a little bit bigger. And look, I really don't like mentioning branding anymore because these guys have never taken care of me. So I don't recommend, okay, righto, I'm going to break. It's a Hungry Bin, right? So Hungry Bin, send me $50 for letting everyone know. Just kidding, no, just joking. It's a Hungry Bin. It's a flow-through worm farm. There's lots of different types around flow-through worm farms. And this could be, so in conjunction with having a smaller worm farm, the 3-tiered one, which I recommend getting first. And if you're expanding out, you might want to look into a Hungry Bin or a larger flow-through worm farm. Now, you can use just big compost bins, sit them on the ground and do something similar, so you don't have to worry about all these wheels and things like that. And this just a big compost bin like I've got called the biggest worm farm ever, which you'll see on my channel. Go and check that out. It's just basically something like this, but 4 to 5 times bigger, or maybe 3 times bigger, and that just sits on the ground and we feed into the top like that. And it works a bit like those permaculture worm farms, the underground ones that I was showing you before. So we're moving through the systems and showing you, like we've really stepped from beginner worm farming and giving you a direction of where you can actually go, which I think is really cool going into the future. But you want to start with the 3-tiered one, and that you can learn how to do that by, there's a link down there. You want to check out a full tutorial in my ebook, Starting a Worm Farm, A Beginner's Guide. But we're going to keep rolling through here, and people are going to have some great questions, I know, coming up. And we'll keep talking about worm farming into 2022. Right, so next I want to talk about, and I don't have a picture here, but a DIY worm farm. I think at the beginning, they're just prone to too many problems. I recommend them to people that understand worm farming already and you want to scale up. That's another option to go to save a bit of money. I sort of steer people away from foam boxes now. I don't think it's a sustainable way to go. As you're recycling over and little bits of foam fall onto the ground, into the soil and things like that. I remember the chickens used to peck on the side of mine, just put it everywhere. It was crazy. And the flow-through worm farms, these are more sort of intermediate and experienced worm farming, or people that just got a really big space. But I still recommend starting off with a 3-tier one. Maybe find one secondhand or something like that. And if you don't want that anymore, move into something like a flow-through worm farm. There's ones that have got bags, and they actually they've got more air going into the sides and the oxygen gets in. This one, the Hungry Bin, is a full plastic one. It's not very good in very hot places. I actually sold mine. I don't have mine anymore, but it served a really good purpose for the time that I had it. And who knows, if another one turns up secondhand, I may buy it, because some things have just turned up recently. But I really like those big underground ones that I've got that sort of sit on the surface, called the biggest worm farms ever. I just think they're easier to manage. But if you need something to wheel around, you need to collect the juice underneath, these can work pretty good, I reckon. All right, so when you're looking for a good worm farm, as I mentioned before, I want to recommend this, is make sure you get something really strong and sturdy. Worm castings and worm compost is really heavy, guys. So don't overdo it when you're building bedding and stuff like that in these worm farms. Just be very careful, because if you've got a bad back or lifting problems or whatever, just use less compost, less bedding, and you'll be totally fine. And then you just sort of add a bit more. If you feel that's a bit light, I want to add a bit more. In wintertime and summertime, you're quite strong. The more bedding you have, the less temperature fluctuations, so your worms will perform a bit better. But just be aware, wheeling something around like this, a hungry bin, is really heavy when it's full. All right, so we are just charging through this, so close to the Q&A now. And yeah, I think I've mentioned quite a lot. I've even mentioned about picking them up secondhand on places such as Facebook or some type of local place where you can online, where you can buy secondhand things. And you can even find them like on the side of the road and stuff. I've had quite a few given to me actually over time. And you know, I have my micro farm here, and they play a big role. All my worm farms have played a big role in success to where I've gotten to now. Right, so we want to move into talking about the bedding, using a quality bedding. Now, the best bedding you can use all up is a compost that comes out of your tumbler and then goes into a small worm farm and then used that way. The next bedding I recommend is a mushroom compost. I really like that stuff. It's got a lot of good biology on it. The worms really like it. Another bedding you can use is cow manure. Just be careful, there's a bit of nitrogen. If it's fresh, it may get hot. So things that are still breaking down could get hot and affect the worms a bit. And then the other one is cocoa fiber. It's pretty good. Avoid the really cheap stuff that they sell to put in the garden. It's got a lot of salt and, different things in it. Look in the section where they're selling worms and get the cocoa peat blocks there. Once it's there and you're using it and you've made your bedding, don't ever clean your worm farm right out so it's beautiful and shiny each time. You want to leave a bit of compost in there each time, a bit of that biology and good bacteria, because that'll help reinvigorate the system when you're putting new compost back in. And if you live locally here around where I am on the mid-north coast, around North Haven, Laurelton, come and see me, and I have probably the best bedding that you can have, and I sell the compost worms with the bedding at the same time. So you know, you save a lot of money instead of going to maybe places like Bunnings and things like that. All right, so carbon source. Worm farms need a good carbon source. Now, carbon, what's that? It's all your browns. So when you're feeding it, you can see in here in the top of the hungry bin, when you're feeding this bin, you see lots of greens here, and you can sort of see some browns there. Well, this has got to have, you know, they make a lot of mistakes in these imagery to try and make things look nice and marketable and that, but this would need a bit of brown sort of mixed through it. So when I have a little bucket on my kitchen bench, and when I have a toilet roll or a bit of tissue paper or whatever, and I'm throwing scraps in, I'm throwing a bit of carbon in, a bit of paper from when I went shopping and it was wrapped in, throwing that in and then sort of mixing that up. And then I throw that into my worm farms or compost system. So I'm mixing a sort of a 50-50 blend, and that way all the moisture gets sucked into the carbon, and the carbon's actually breaking down and the worms eat the carbon as well. And we keep a nice neutral system of no smell that way. So just keep that in mind. And you can also create carbon beddings with wood chip and things like that. But this going a bit sort of harder. You can do beddings with just leaves. That'll work if the leaves are really humusy and really broken down, no problem. That'll work as well. There are plenty of other ways to do this. It's just how I do it and how I've taught it over time. So let's pull something across here from Garden King. Scotty at Garden King. Love the in-ground bucket idea. Great to leach nutrient through the veggie bed. Any tips in storing castings from above the ground systems once they're done? Are they okay in a sealed plastic bag? Okay, there's some good questions there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about food because that's the last part of my list, and then we'll move into that question, right? So best foods, anything that's organic, you know, old aged manures, not too much in a worm farm. But just little bits and pieces of it, you know, all your vegetable scraps. Just stay away from sort of citrus and onion. They will eat that stuff, but it takes longer for the bacteria to break it down. What's happening is the worms are eating what's on the side of the bacteria that's breaking it down, the fungi and different things, and then they're consuming that. They're putting it through their body. They've got a little bit of grit in there, so you've got to always have a bit of coffee ground or a bit of broken up eggshell, something like that for the grit in their gizzard. It moves through, it picks up the biology and drops it out 10 times stronger than it already was. So like worm farming is absolutely awesome. And what you're doing is you're creating a super nutrient dense bio, and get this, right? It's actually water soluble and it's slow release. Way better than any sort of chemical nutrient that you can put out onto the garden. And it's pH neutral, so it doesn't change any of the balances. Nature is just makes the best stuff on the planet. All right, so let's get into this question for Garden Kings. Love the in-ground bucket idea. Yep, so I have my big ones, biggest worm farms ever, set around my systems. You'll see that in future videos coming up on my channel, on my show, how I'm setting up a new worm farming area. It's exciting stuff, so make sure you watch the video tomorrow to follow the stories. Okay, so yeah, it leaches throughout the garden bed. Every time you're watering them down and things like that, moving out into the garden, there's no doubt about that. Right, any tips on storing castings from above the ground systems once they are done? You need to dry them out about halfway. Big bucket with a couple of holes in top. You don't want them sort of sweating or anything like that. Still got to have airflow because there's biology. And you can turn it and you can do two things, right? If you dry it right out fully, it'll just have the nutrients that are in there, right? You'll lose a lot of that biology, that living life force attached to that nutrient. You'll get some because some will go dormant and things, but most of it needs to have moisture. Just like we need water to drink, so does the biology, right? So if we can dry it out, we've got nutrients. If we keep it about half sort of dried out, then we're keeping some of the biology alive and we're keeping some of the nutrients alive, and it's not going sort of too soggy. So you dry that out in the shade, put it in a bucket, nice big bucket with a lid, couple of holes, and just every now and again go in and sort of give it a bit of a turn inside there. But look, the fresher you can use it, the better. But if you've got to overstock, that's what I recommend to do. And or you can, if you've got some other compost around, mix it in the compost. You want to go 10 to 20% in your compost. Don't go over that 10 to 20%. You're just not getting the value from your worm castings, and your plants won't do any better than that. So that's just scientifically proven. And you can do it that way and store it sort of in a compost as well. That's already finished. And so, yeah, great question. Are they okay in a sealed or plastic bag? As I mentioned before, not really. You don't want the biology sweating. You've got to have air getting through. Just like us. Think like us, we need air and water to survive, and the housing is their little shirt or whatever. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. If you've got any more, let me know. Smokescreen TV, good work, Marty. Tuned in, but can't chat. Have a great weekend, all. Well, thank you very much for dropping in, my friend, and yeah, happy 2022 to all of you and Smokescreen TV. Jarman H with cotton shirts. Do you have to put them in a shredder or just cut them into strips? Just be careful. Just be aware that in cotton shirts there is some other fibers and things. They won't eat all of it. What I do is I put it generally underneath the blanket or in a section in the worm farm. I wet it down and I keep that as a cooling zone for the t-shirts and things like that. You can chop them up smaller if you like, and that will provide more surface area, and they will chew through that much quicker. So really, it just depends on you and what you want to do with it, because you can use it as a sort of a worm blanket as well, and they'll come up and eat it. You'll see this little fibrous stuff depending on if it's 100% organic t-shirt, maybe there's nothing left at the end. Dan Wu. Does the weather affect the worms? It's -7 degrees right now. Can I still start a worm farm? Yes, you can if you go bigger. You can. But if not, just wait until maybe things change. Or if you're good at composting and you know how to do hot mixes and you understand about adding nitrogen and keeping things warm that way, or you've got a warm spot where you can place it with somewhere where you would feel comfortable, you can start a worm farm that way, like under a kitchen sink, next to a water heater, that's in the house, things like that. But, you do it properly, there's no smell and stuff. So, yeah, just anywhere where you feel they would be comfortable, no problem. You can start right now. But outside in set -7 degrees, I would just wait a little while, Dan Wu. And here we go. Cool climate, tropical fruits. G'day, Marty. I have 10 minutes to watch, but being hustled to cut the shops, we're out of milk. I know, I'm out of milk too. We're going to go shopping today as well, my friend. But thanks heaps for dropping in and saying g'day. And yeah, if you're interested in cool climate tropical gardening, check out my friend's channel here. Some good stuff going on over there. And he's always doing some grafting and up to some crazy things. All right. Perfect, Marty. Thanks. Well, thank you, mate. It was a great question. I'm sure a lot of people benefit from questions just like that. Linda McCann, some of the veggie scraps turn mouldy in my hungry bin. Should I remove them? I would say that possibly you're overfeeding then. Yeah, I would look at removing them or dig them down deeper into the bedding and then just sort of weight back off a bit until you start feeding again. As I was saying before to Garden Kings, my friend Scott there, you really want to just, it's a small worm farm isn't if you've got a big family or whatever, isn't really your solution to getting rid of all your material. It just helps, and it's turning something into something valuable. And you can use the water that's running through there as a liquid nutrient, and you can use the worm castings. They do over-promote it too much in marketing things, saying this is your solution to sustainability and all that type of stuff. I'm just going to break that down, let you honestly know, because I just want to share the truth as best I can. It helps, but it's not the full solution to it. You need to have a composting system. But if it's all you can do, it's better than nothing, right? Some people go, well, I won't do that then because it's not really a solution. But you think about it, if you chop up your stuff really small and you've got a really hungry worm farm, a lot of worms in there, you can eat quite a lot of material. So, yeah. I have a rabbit that lives off pellets, hay and veggies. I tumbler litter, which is hay recycled, paper pellets, poo and wee. How long would I need to leave it to mature before giving it to the worms? Once it's cool, it's sort of like going humusy and cooled down, no problem. That something isn't like this. It's not too heavily high in nitrogen, and it's not hot and giving off any ammonias and things like chicken manure does. Yeah, you can give it to it pretty quickly. I'd wait until it's sort of like halfway done or something, or 1/3 done, and start feeding, because you could nearly feed something like that almost raw straight to worm farms, right? So if you're just taking it a little bit further, breaking it down into a systemized. So I always recommend teaching and doing systemized stuff. That's what I do here on Marty's Gardens. I try to systemize everything. So yeah, I think you don't have to wait too long. Just trial a few different versions of it, and you'll do pretty good. So if you've been watching the show, right, you've come in today a little bit late, then at the beginning, the first sort of 10, 20 minutes, we've got a lot of value in there about starting a worm farm. I've also got over in my Buy Me a Coffee website where people have been supporting this channel, which has been absolutely amazing, and through Super Chats here, we've been able to purchase this software where I can do these recordings from, run these live shows, pull in videos, pull in images, and chat to you guys, answer questions. So thank you very much again for your support with that. People have been going over and buying the Starting a Worm Farmer Beginner's Guide. I've been selling more than I thought I would. So it's been absolutely great, one or two every few days. And yeah, people are enjoying the ebook. So if you want it, it's in the link down below. Head over there and check it out, and you'll learn more about worm farming and getting things up and running. Dan Wu, thanks for the answer. Is food scraps the only thing to put in the worm farm? Could I put shredded paper in? Yeah, you can actually make shredded paper bedding. So you just shred it up and wet it down with spray. And then sort of what I recommend is actually like having a compost bedding, and then that would be your next layer. And then so you've got that shredded stuff paper all on top, like your carbon source. Then you're putting your fresh scraps into it, and that'll be soaking that all up, and the worms come in and love that. It's like being in leaf litter. So yeah, great question, and that was a really good tip for you beginner worm farmers that want to shred your paper or rip up old newspaper. You can do it with cardboard, anything like that. Just go for it, right? We've got 21 people watching, 29 thumbs up. If you haven't given the show a thumbs up yet, guys, please do. What I normally do when we get like a super chat or something like that, I give an applause. Or hang on, is that working? Yes, it's working. I haven't given any applauses today, so I thought I better do one out there. That's my fake party crowd. And yeah, so thanks for coming and watching so far. As I said, 29 thumbs up, 22 people watching. Please give us a big thumbs up if you haven't already. It helps show YouTube that I've got a good show going on here and people are enjoying it. And the longer you stay, it lets them know also that it's a good show. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's keep going here. Linda McCann, thanks. Well, thank you, and I really appreciate it. So hopefully the sound's coming good. You can see me really well, and you're enjoying the way that I'm creating these new productions for you all. So thank you so much for coming so far. Let's keep these questions rolling in, guys. Generally, it's about a 30-second delay when the questions sort of come through. I'm here to answer any worm farming question you may have, and if you want to throw an odd gardening one in there, happy to do that too. Generally, our show runs for about an hour, and we still have around just under 20 minutes to go, so I'm looking forward to your questions. 25 people watching, 33 thumbs up. I got another 4 thumbs up since I asked for that. So thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I am going to applause you with my fake crowd in the background there, and we'll just keep things rolling along. As I said, I've got a really cool announcement tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that on the Marty's Garden channel, and a continued rolling story. It's going to be great. Wow. Okay, great answers. I've been scared of levels of ammonia, etc. I'll have to try. I think ammonia is more in chicken manure. I know it's very heavy in it. I don't think rabbits so much from what I've spoken to. And Michael from O'Donnell's Aussie Homestead, he does it. He's feeding his worms, and we've sort of gone over that, the rabbit pellets and different things, and he's doing quite well. I think the people that have the rabbits and they got the cages, because they've got the cage, the wiring falls through. You can put worm farms down below them, and whatever they're doing, scratching around and things like that, it just slowly falls down. So bits of sort of carbon from the bedding that they're sitting in, and bits of food scraps fall down, a bit of manure and stuff. And so great way to build it. If I had a rabbit farm, that's how I'd have all my worm farms underneath, collecting and doing all that stuff. So if we're going back to the beginning, as I said, a wise man said to me, Marty, if you're doing anything, you want to do anything well, always go back to the beginning, go back to A. A is the starting position. And so we've gone right back into A today, which is starting a worm farm, right? So for beginners. And if you've missed a part of the beginning of this, you may need to go back and watch the rerun so you can learn a lot about worm farming, guys. And we've got someone else turned up, Worm Wrangler, Michael Dvorak. Hello, Marty, and all me crazy worm branches. Looks like a great video. Well, thanks, mate, for coming, and hopefully I'm giving out some value. It does come in quick, the information, so some people might have to scroll back, watch bits and pieces, watch the reruns, things like that to get it fully rolling. But we've spoken about it, a few different worm farms, different beddings. The only thing we haven't gotten into yet is the type of worms. So I think this is something that you guys can really help me with, and you can let me know what type of worms you're using, your favorite compost worm at your place, and why you use it. Would love to hear from you all, and I'm sure other people would as well. So this is somewhere where the community can really come in and have a good chat about worms. Now, my favorite worm would have to be, if I was just to choose one, would be the tiger worm. They've got a little yellow tip on the tail. They're a smaller worm than a nightcrawler, but they're just more forgiving for beginners. They can just handle more temperature fluctuations. They eat a lot, they breed a lot, they feed a lot, and they're a really good worm. They're predominantly the major compost worm that you'll find when you buy compost worms from someone that may be selling them in a shop, or when you buy them from me, you're getting a variety of different Euros, blues, reds, things like that. But yeah, just that one. If you're going for one to start off with, look for the tiger. And what's another name for the tiger worm? If anyone knows that, let me know in the comments and I'll pull it over below. Okay, Linda McCann. I've been pouring the liquid directly over plants. Is it good use of it? It sure is. And if you want to take it even further, break it down into 10 to 1 and just use and oxygenate as much. Shake it around, pour it from bucket to bucket, things like that, and then the roots can uptake it. More oxygen, the more nutrients can actually reach. So we've had someone come in from Daniel Wood. He just claimed starting a worm farm, a beginner's guide. If you're watching this, Dan, thank you very much. I just saw a little email response. So what we're going to do is we're going to give that an applause. thank you, Dan, for that. You are truly appreciated. I'm sure you'll get a lot out of that. All right. All that crazy stuff going on. Let's keep moving on there. And people are chatting to each other, saying g'day in there, which is really good. Yeah, Dan, thank you, mate. I'll just give you a little bit of a cheer on there. Thank you so much for going in and purchasing my ebook there. Really do appreciate it. And I'm sure you'll get a lot from it. Okay. Red Wrigglers, that's the name. So yeah, your red wigglers, your tigers, really great worm to get started with, and you'll always be able to identify them easy because they've got a little yellow tail, right? Little yellow wispy tail. And if you get this in real close, you can see like a stripe on them. That's where they get the nickname tiger worm. But my eyes aren't as good. I'm getting older, and I look for the yellow tail. And yeah, they are a great compost worm, and they look in the right conditions. They can multiply by 3 times every 3 months or double every 3 months, right? So generally, if you've got a really good condition, they can double every 3 months. Really super conditions like what I get here in the autumn, I can triple in 3 months because they just go absolutely mental. But the rest of the time of the year in a good situation, I'm sort of doubling every 3 months. Yeah, and so you can scale up compost worms quite good. And as I said, you start off with a little farm, then you can build an underground worm farm, and you can get like a big flow-through farm. You've got 3 systems going. You're turning over a lot of material. And if you've got a compost bin going with that as well, we're talking serious stuff. You won't need anything more than that, and you've got everything you need to grow plants with, my friends. If you want to add a bit of grit or a bit of extra stuff, it's like add some rock minerals. You just want to go that extra bit to provide some extra minerals that you think may be missing for your compost worms in your compost. Get some rock minerals or rock dust, and that will take it again to another level. And if you keep recycling it because you're using those minerals and going back into the plants, and then you're recycling and growing. So as you're growing the veggies from your compost bin, the plants are taking up then, and you're getting the scraps from those and putting them back through. You're creating this evolving loop that just gets better and better over time. So that's one thing I would recommend. And you may want to use also like a liquid seaweed or something like that on your plants from time to time. And that'll help bring those minerals into the loop from out of the ocean as well into your system. Okay, we've got another cool question here. Vermicompost, learn by doing. Excuse my phone, it's just behind me there, getting a few messages coming through. We'll check that. I'll check them in a little while. We've still got like 13 minutes to go for the show. 30 people watching, 37 thumbs up. That is absolutely brilliant. Thanks everyone for turning up to just come and watch the show. I hope you're getting a lot of value. If you come in late, watch the rerun, go through, pick up all the tips and tricks. This is a really valuable video for getting started at beginner worm farming. And it is a live show, so the production isn't as super fantastic as something that I would normally do, but it's very interactive and I really dig it. Vermicompost, learn by doing. You may have already answered this, but can you fertilize veggie beds with just compost? Vermicompost and their teas. Yes, you can. That's all I do, mate. I don't use any synthetic fertilizer. Like I said, I do get some seaweed stuff from time to time. I occasionally get a chicken pellet in. It's an organic one, it's a mixture of organic blood and bone, seaweed and chicken manure, but I buy one big bag and it lasts me all year. I hardly use any of it, right? So I'm basically making my compost on site. It's the worm castings and the juice that grow all my plants and actually produce products for my micro farm. So I'm growing all my microgreens that way. They go out to the restaurants. I've only got one sort of hydroponic tower that I grow some basil in at the moment. My air garden, that's pretty good. But predominantly 99% of the stuff that's coming out of here is all grown in my compost, worm cast and worms. And yeah, and so you can do it. I'm doing it, and nature has always done it before these other things come around. So look at those systems, as I mentioned before. You start off with a small one, medium one, underground one, start putting embeddings around. And if you're scaling up your garden, look at the underground worm farms and maybe putting some biggest worm farms ever or underground worm farms in your system. You just got to keep stocks separate so you can backfill them up, because remember, they do escape out of these little worm farms and disappear out and move off into the garden. They might get eaten by a few birds, and some might just crawl out of the garden and hit the grass, can't get back, so you will lose a few, but they do breed also in the underground worm farms. Yeah, so if you want to avoid synthetic fertilizers, I can't even remember the last time I used a synthetic fertilizer other than that hydroponic tower that I've got now. And so anyway, let's keep going. LP, hey, I made it. Hey, Marty and everyone. G'day, LP. Good to see you here, mate. And Christian Family Man. We lost you there. God bless everyone. Sorry I'm late. Hey, no worries, man. Thanks for just dropping in. I just appreciate everyone that just comes in and says g'day. Not everyone can be on my time and on my schedule. It's a live show. It's a busy time of year, but always awesome to see you here. And thanks for your support, Christian Family Man. I really appreciate everything you've done for me so far. And to Scott from Garden Kings as well. These guys have been supporting my channel, and yeah, appreciate you. Garden Kings, what's the thing that worms love the most? Avocado skins, eggshells, egg cartons. I always find them between layers of carton, just like you said. Now, I've got a video, I think it's something worm farming hack. If you type in my channel, type in worm farming hack, and then you'll see the hack come up with the egg cartons. It is absolutely just gold. It's one of the best hacks I've ever done. I don't want to give away the gold there. Go and check it out a bit later, and leave a comment. Let me know that you've had a look and that you like that. So avocado skins, absolutely brilliant. Really great on the top surface where you just put them down a bit, and they're a good worm trap. So if you want to get some worms out in one go, you just put an avocado skin just sort of into the surface a bit. Give it 3 or 4 days, maybe 5 days, come through, and sometimes the whole skin is just full, and you can pull out a whole lot of worms in one go and transfer them into an underground worm farm or into a compost system or something like that. So yeah, great trap, and they must just love eating that material from time to time. Eggshells is really good for grit, for the calcification, so they can digest, and also it helps buffer down the pH. Dolomite will also do that as well, and is a cheaper, easier option to do. But you need to crush up your eggshell as much as possible. And as I said, I've got the hack and the egg cartons. Really good stuff, great carbon. But the hack's a whole new video in itself, so go and check that out. Just type into Marty's Garden Hack or Marty's Garden Worm Farm Hack, something like that. Egg carton blanket hack. I just can't remember the name of it at the moment. I always find them between the layers of cardboard, like you said. Yeah, and so in this hack, I also have got like an intermediate one section in my course in here, starting a worm farm beginner's guide in the members area. But that mightn't be for everyone. If you sort of want to go intermediate, then that video may be for you. But we're really predominantly talking for beginners here. But yeah, if you're ripping up bits of cardboard or you're using it as a blanket, that cardboard that's sort of like fibrous and it's got the hollow parts, they climb through that, and they're chasing the starch in there, and a lot of that starch is from cornstarch, I believe, so they feed on the sugars on that as well. So yeah, really cool stuff. Let's keep moving through here. Candy Crush Addict, hi Marty, welcome, and yeah, nice to see you again here. How's everything going over there? And look, everyone, welcome into 2022. I was going to do a live, like a pre-recorded one for 2022. I did a live show, and then I sort of didn't keep it on because the production wasn't so great. But I just want to thank everyone for their support in 2021. We're going into 2022, just absolutely brilliant. So yeah, thanks for being here. We've been running for 53 minutes and 35 seconds, 28 people watching, 41 thumbs up. If you want to throw in a super chat before we head off, it's right below the bottom of the chat box there. Any small donation is appreciated. If you want to learn more about worm farming or support the channel, check out the Buy Me a Coffee link below in the description down below, and you'll help keep Marty's Garden channel alive and rolling. Thank you, everyone. Vermicompost, learn by doing. Thank you. Hey, you are so welcome. Thank you so much for coming in, and we're getting some great questions here. Can I put cornmeal in grains? Yes, you can. If you can, crush it up and powder it up as much as you can. More surface area, the better. Grains and corns and things that are heavy proteins, if you feed them a little bit of that, it does help with egg production, so cocoon production. It will speed up things, and they really love eating a bit of protein as well. So, yeah, cornmeal. I don't know if corn has protein in it. I think it does, yeah. But they just love those grains. So any of those. I even give them a bit of white rice, cooked white rice every now and again, and they just go ballistic on that stuff. There are some favourite foods that they really like, and maybe you want to share a favourite food that you like feeding your worms that they like the most. I know some people feed watermelon. They go bonkers on that stuff. They love all that sugary sort of fruity food. Oh, excuse me. That's what happens live when I can't cut it out, but I need a drink. Losing my voice. What do you think of the sign behind, guys? Let me know in the comments box. Do you like it? Don't panic. It's organic. I think it's a bit better than the straight white wall there than we had before. So here we go. We're going to pull this across now and get me on the full screen. 16:9. So you can see me nice and well. And we'll get rid of sort of that other stuff in the background that's distracting us. And so I want to give you all a big thank you. As I've said, look, we get people coming in live and coming and going. So occasionally you hear me repeat myself, but that's the whole thing because most people stay for about 10-minute blocks. So I just want to thank people that are coming through backwards and forwards more often. So thank you guys into 2022. And it's just been awesome for the support. Thanks so much. Linda McCann, thanks for all the answers. Never knew I could give protein. Yeah, it's a good food source to do. You can even grind up beans, dried beans, those type of things. Just practice. More variety that you can give these worms, the better nutrition they're gonna have, more nutrition they're gonna have, and also a higher quality casting that you're gonna provide. Now they will eat the bedding, so the bedding will disappear into and become a casting eventually. And, they do predominantly like to feed on one food source. But if you're just giving them food scraps and lots of stuff, they just get used to that. Like, I feed mine sort of mostly now in my windrows and things for the farm here. Predominantly, cow manure, mushroom, that's the bedding. And, a few different scraps and things. But mostly coffee grounds, which I collect from the local cafes because it's just everywhere. It's so easy to access. It's free and they love you taking it away. And it makes a very good casting, and they love the food, builds biology, and it's full of, really, it's very nutrient dense and a lot of minerals and things in it. So yeah, great stuff. living that sign, you think loving that sign. I remember it from the garage. Hey, you're just going right back there, my friend. You remember from the garage, little shiny. Yeah, look, unfortunately when it was made, it's a gloss, right? So I can't have everything. I can't really put a sort of thing over the top, and maybe one day we'll replace it with something else. But, as things go, you just got to be a bit careful with overspending money when you don't really have the money coming in. But, yeah, it looks better than the plain white wall, and we've improved things, Scott, from looking over to the kitchen for a white wall to something like this. So I think we're getting there slowly over time, right? Eventually I'll probably have even a nicer background again. The live show will improve over time. Plain cooked white rice. Yep. I always, when I've finished cooking my rice, because it's always a bit stuck on the bottom and stuff like that and the sides, I just fill it up with water. I let it sit overnight on the sink, and then I just pour that into the worm farm. So then the water, the chlorine's gone by then, and the white rice is all soaked. It's even cooked even further. Well, not cooked, but it's soaked even further. And then they hook into it. I just love it. It's another good worm trap is white rice if you want to find a way to move them to one spot and grab a whole handful of worms quickly. LP, I shred up pizza boxes that aren't super greasy, shipping boxes and paper. Yeah, they love that stuff. Yeah, the oil, I don't know about the oily stuff. I think it's sort of a good idea to stay away from it. But, they will chew through it eventually if the bacteria gets onto it. Got to go. Thanks, Linda. See, we're about to close off soon anyway. We've only got a couple of minutes left on the show. And Christian Family Man, the sign looks groovy. Or is that grovy? Sorry, just practicing my dad jokes. That's all right. It is groovy. I like your sign as well. Thanks, mate. That's really great. Yeah, it looks better than the fridge. Loving the setup. Love you as always. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, what we do is we get towards the end of the show. If you've come in late, go back and watch the rerun. You'll get all the tips in the first 10 to 20 minutes about how, about worm farming and worm farming for beginners. Please share this video out with other people and let people know about Marty's Garden channel and the value that they can get here. If you want to learn more about worm farming, I've got the ebook down below, Starting a Worm Farm Beginner's Guide. You can also go over there and buy me a coffee, and it's just little ways to support this channel and keep things rolling. Tomorrow we've got a great little video coming out. I think it's about 3.5, 5 minutes long. just an update on something that really amazing that's happened here. And yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. Composted sheep manure is a favorite. Yeah, to just like getting it instead of fresh and just aging it a bit. Definitely. Any of those manures like that. I think people have used alpaca because alpaca just all poo in the same spot for some reason, which is really bizarre. But yeah, anything like that, if you just compost it down, compost worms will hook into it and turn it into 10 times more nutritious, nutrient dense than what it was before. So yeah, I must say that I've learned the most from your channel. Thanks, Michael. Marty, have been watching you for years. The work and dedication that you give us requires me to say thanks again. Well, thank you, Michael. Look, I just appreciate you and the support that you've had, and hopefully if Marty's Garden, keeps rolling out, I can keep giving value to people like yourself and new people coming in that have, discovered this channel over time, and that they're getting value from it as well. And look, you guys have been really awesome. You've kept this channel alive and made it possible for me to do things like this and keep going. So thank you very much. Christian family man, will do. I'm about to build my first worm farm. This will be very helpful. Cheers, Marty. Yeah, you're very welcome. Any way I can help, let me know. You've been great help supporting the channel here, and I truly appreciate you. So what we do now as we sort of head into that last hour is everyone starts saying goodbye to each other, and I'll drop and you drop a little comment at the end. I'll drag it across. We have some tunes going. I sort of mute my microphone. We've got the theme song, and we've been going just over an hour. And I've got some actually got to do some shopping, get some food shopping, and I've got some more worm farming jobs that I've got to do. So, yeah. Don't panic. It's organic. Sounds great. Yeah, Mike, completely agree. Marty, you need to let the new people know that they have a world of videos that they can access if they join. So much good content. Hey, thanks, Scotty from Garden Kings. Really appreciate that. And here's some sheep farmers. Well, they have a pile of stuff they take out of the barns when it's time to clean. One side of the pile is maybe 2 to 4. Oh, wow. That is gold, man. Get that stuff. That, that age stuff like that, man. Woo. Onwards and upwards, I say, my friend. I'm really stoked for you. That is, yeah, man, that'll just be really good stuff. What a source to hook onto. All right, so I'm going to mute my microphone here, and you will hear the sound of our theme song coming on. Listen to the music, drop in your comments, say goodbye. I'll put them here on the screen. And thank you all for coming. I'll say a quick goodbye at the end of this.
The sun is warm, there's a gentle breeze. All the birds are making homes inside the evergreens. The air is clear, with our loved ones close. You can pick out every star without a telescope. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will grab onto your arm a little stronger than we were before. I've missed your face, has it been that long? Looking forward to a fire and a sing-along. Let's stay the same as the children grow, and teach them all the simple things we thought we used to know. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will grab onto your arm a little stronger than we were before. In a world, in a day, we are all brand new, and it's love that we're fighting for. I'm proud, that we always held out hope. So if you grab on into my arms.
Oh man, I just love that song. There's so much emotion attached to it, so much, it just speaks truth, and I'm so blessed to have that song. Michael, I believe his name is, wrote it. I need to remember his surname. I've just got a bit, an hour, I've just gone bang, 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 bang. These little things disappear in my head, so I can't remember the actual name of the composer right now. But I appreciate that song, and I appreciate you all coming to watch my show. Thank you so much for being here. If you've come in late, watch the rerun, grab all the tips in the first 10 minutes, sort of going into the next 20 minutes, and some awesome stuff towards the video. So many good comments and questions and things. Content like this is just gold, and I can't make it without you guys. And it's unreal just actually being here with you all to enjoy such a great experience. Thanks for keeping Marty's garden alive. All the best to you. Bye for now. Lots of love. Ciao.